Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we'll be doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which sees the release of The Woman King. That's right, the film that everyone has been waiting for, waiting to revise history, potentially. Woman King of Slavery, probably more of an accurate title, but of course I'm sure that they will kind of gloss over that small little inconvenient fact about the women and the tribe and the kingdom that they're trying to prop up here. I'm sure they'll just gloss over the fact that they themselves were slave owners and enslaved the various tribes around them, but we'll get into that in a little bit. We also have the second weekend numbers for Barbarian. We also have a new release called Pearl, which is apparently a prequel to a film that came out last year called X. I remember when that film did come out and, again, didn't make that much fanfare as far as major box office is concerned, maybe compared to its budget it did, but in general, I don't think a lot of people really ended up seeing it, but it got enough to merit a prequel to it. And we also have the new release of See How They Run, which actually looks kind of interesting based off of just the general premise that I have read about. Before we go further, though, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, smash the rumble button. Also, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with the bell notification on. That way you know what time the video or live stream goes live on the channel. So The Woman King is projected to reign supreme with $18 million. Well, that is a lot of money in comparison to the other films that have come out recently. Last weekend, Barbarian opened to around $10 million, so they're projecting this film to do just a little bit better. Makes a little bit of sense, seeing that the film is coming out in more theaters than Barbarian and some of the other films that have come out more recently have come out in, but at the same time, I do ask the question, do you think that people actually will go out to see The Woman King? It's getting praise from all the critics, of course, because it features strong female characters, and we all know that Hollywood loves to praise that kind of stuff, especially when it portrays history of a certain nature. We'll have to, of course, wait and see what the actual real-life people going to see this film have to actually say, instead of the actual shills who try to control the narrative as it often comes to these movies. But it is projected still to make $18 million for this weekend, which seems to be a decent amount of money. However, of course, when it comes to films like this, we have to understand them within the full context of their release. And The Woman King cost $50 million. So $18 million might be a decent start for this film, but it needs to make quite a bit of money in order for it to get into its break-even territory. Remember, typically the break-even number for most films is going to be around 2.5 times its budget, so you're looking at this film needing to make well north of $100 to $125 million in order for it to even break even. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not the film's able to do so or not, but hey, that is where we are currently looking with this movie. When it comes to Barbarian, it's looking at a 46% drop, so not a terrible number there. $5.7 million for this horror film. Pearl expected to open to $3.6 million. Bullet Train having a 27% drop, so even though it is starting to lose some screens, it is actually holding its own, which, as you all know, is a good sign for films, and Bullet Train is right on the cusp of breaking even, and I think that this is definitely going to put it that much closer. It'll be interesting to see what the international numbers for this movie are, because I think that it'll probably be a weekend or two away from starting to enter into the profitability territory, which makes me very happy, because to me, it's one of the best films that have come out so far this year. Definitely has one of the most entertaining films to come out in this past year. Also, we have Top Gun Maverick continuing to hang around. Another 30% drop there. Well over $700 million domestic. Another $2.2 million for this Paramount juggernaut. Awesome to see that. DC League of Super Pets having another strong hold as well, only dropping 25%. This film has now been out for several weeks, but it still has a long ways to go for its own break even. See How They Run is another Searchlight Pictures under Disney's banner. $1.9 million opening weekend. So not a very strong opening for this movie. It'll be interesting to see exactly how this film plays on Disney Plus, or how that actually works with their distribution deals and stuff like that. But I imagine with a film only making that much money, even though the film might not have cost all that much money, probably cost well more than the $1.9 million, and I can't imagine it doing that much better internationally. So not looking like this film is going to be a massive moneymaker. The Invitation, another $1.5 million. Minions: Rise of Gru hanging around as well at $1.4 million. And then Brahmastra Part 1, Shiva, still out at very small numbers of screens, but also expected to drop as far as the amount of money, $1.3 million, so a 71% drop. So interesting that the film was not in a lot of theaters in the first place, had a good per theater ratio, and it looks like they are not expanding that out And it might be for a good reason because it looks like it was very front-loaded. However, it'll be interesting to see where this film does as far as the worldwide numbers are concerned. Now, as I had mentioned about the Woman King, right? We're getting all this information about the Woman King, and hey, look at all those strong female warriors. And that's, of course, going to be their main focus. It's going to be about the strong female warriors. It's also going to be set against the fact that they are going to be fighting off, right? They're going to be fighting off against imperialism, right? As it says here, protecting the kingdom against the imperialists as they come to try to enslave them. At least that is how it's being portrayed in the trailers. But the actual history, very different. As it says here, The Woman King, this is from Washington Examiner, is an upcoming historical epic piece centered on General Nansika of the Dahomey Amazons of the Kingdom of Dahomey. It tells the tale of the valiant efforts of Nansika to fight off Europeans who were intent on taking over Africa. But while the movie is advertised in its trailer as based on powerful true events, it seems that great liberties have been taken with historical truths and facts, which is really not all that surprising whatsoever. It says here, the Woman King seems to ignore blatantly the brutality and savagery of the Kingdom of Dahomey, the empire from which Viola Davis's main character of General Nansika hails, I should say. The plot is a familiar one. Under the attack, it's up to the underdog heroes of the Dahomey Amazons to fight off the big bad Europeans. The trailer for the movie features the lines, "The Europeans wish to conquer us. They will not stop until the whole of Africa is theirs. We must fight back for our people." But in reality, Dahomey was an empire built on the backs of African slaves. The kingdom used conquest and slave labor, two major red flags, for its own benefit. At least they are red flags when it was white people who were doing them. So yes, this is just continuing on the hypocrisy of modern-day Hollywood and the hypocrisy of just the modern, crazy, far-left loons that are out there, right? It's that, okay, we're only going to call out and go crazy and go gaga when it comes to slavery of America, slavery within America, rather, slavery when it comes to Europeans enslaving Africans. However, when it comes to Africans enslaving themselves, oh, no, we're not going to talk about that. Oh, when it comes to them actually partaking within the actual transatlantic slave trade, oh, no. We're going to gloss over that part. As it says here, the Kingdom of Dahomey was a strong African military power that attacked and imperialized its African neighbors. It captured and enslaved the men, women, and children to enhance its wealth and luxuries. It brutally tortured and murdered some slaves, while others it willingly sold to Europeans in the transatlantic slave trade. Whatever slaves weren't sold or executed worked on the Dahomey Kingdom's royal plantations in Africa. Again, if we're going to talk about history, if we're going to call out the moral problems, the grave evil that is slavery, we got to talk about it in every single form and fashion. There is this lie out there that is perpetuated that, oh no, slavery only existed amongst European nations. It only existed in America. When in reality, if you actually look into the history itself, you realize that many of these tribes were actually doing this to themselves and were actually actively partaking in the slave trade that now we are retroactively condemning because, of course, now most of us understand the grave evil that it actually is and are recognizing it as such, which is a good thing, right? It's good for us to recognize the grave evil of slavery. But again, we need to recognize how evil it was, not only in America, but also in the Kingdom of Dahomey and other African nations where this, again, partook and was a big part of, and was a big part of their economy, was a big part of actually establishing them as a power within the continent of Africa. So, again, will the movie actually talk about this history? I have my doots. I have a lot of doots about it. Something tells me that they will either gloss over it or they will portray it in a very positive light, saying, oh, well, they did have slaves, but they didn't treat them as badly as those crazy Europeans did. Didn't treat them as badly as those bad imperializing Christian European nations. Again, clearly this film has an agenda. If you've not seen the trailer for it, then you have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you watch the trailer, you'll see, yes, I see the agenda very clearly on display. The big question is it going to be enough? Is it going to be enough for them to be able to convince enough people to go out and go see it to make up for the $100+ million that worldwide it needs to make in order to break even? I think that it has the potential to do so. The big question, of course, will be how close to the $18 million domestically does it get this weekend? How well does it do internationally? And also, what kind of drop-offs do we see in the long run? And even though the critics are glowing over this, ultimately, all that matters is the actual people going to see this film, the real, actual people who either support a film or don't support a film. But right now, these are the numbers where they are. Woman King expected to do quite well. And looking a little bit into the long-range forecasting of some movies, we've got some newer films here. Avatar's re-release is expected to do 40% less than what was expected. That makes me happy. Don't worry, darling. Apparently, the controversy surrounding the film might actually make more people go to see it, at least according to Box Office Pro, a 48% increase. We also have the numbers for Bros and Smile, which haven't changed. Amsterdam, Lyle Lyle Crocodile. Halloween Ends projected to make $38 to $45 million. An 8% change from previous indications. Either way, I'm very happy that Halloween is indeed ending because I think it's gone on far too long. But with all that being said, what are y'all's thoughts about this? Do you think the Woman King is going to do well? Are you excited for the Woman King? And also, what are your thoughts about them likely conveniently ignoring the brutal history of this nation? Again, they are trying to say, hey, well, we have to show that women can be strong. Right? We have to be able to perpetuate this narrative. But the only way we could do so is by glossing over, or potentially glossing over, the fact that this nation that we're going to try to prop up as heroes against white Europeans were themselves villains, were themselves enslavers of their own people and various tribes around them. Again, details matter, as I have recently heard from a great series called Reacher on Amazon Prime. What are y'all thoughts about this? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, loud that fire button on Odyssey. A huge shout out to Joey Horn. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out for all of my September Patreon, Subscribestar, and Locals members. Starting off with my Patreon members, Chris from the 80s, that's his YouTube channel, Garrett Searles, Hymir Irie Hymason, Jeff Toon, Jonathan Carney, Laura, The Modern Major General Story, Orange Eye Reviews, you can also find on YouTube by the same name, Rosetta Allen, YouTube's name is Eagle Rider, Stan Andrian, and Miss Martin Muses, and that is her YouTube channel. Thank y'all very much for supporting me over on Patreon. Also, for all my Subscribestar peeps, Matt317, that's his Twitch channel name, support him there. Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Mr. Roy, J-Rod, the Beer Guru, and the K-Man. Thank you, K-Man, as well, and you can find him at xtheboundaries.co, and thanks to all of my Subscribestar members. And lastly, to my Locals members, Locals has definitely been hopping a lot more recently. Shout out to Miss Minnesota hockey fan. How about a hockey player? UAB UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson for the win, Brett D90, and the amazing lawyer Robert Barnes. Thank y'all for supporting me over on Locals. And if you want your name shouted out vocally at the end of every single live stream and video, make sure that you support me over on Patreon, Subscribestar, or Locals. And you can find out more information about it on those websites, and check out the top link in the video description below if you want to find out more about how to get that, access to podcasts that I do with John the Flickinger, and also how to be featured on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, which I do once a month with my Chosen of Valhalla members. And it's always a lot of fun. Anyway, that's going to be it for me today. You guys all have an amazing rest of your day. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Beautiful people. And as always, God bless.